I want to share with you today out of John 6. We're continuing in our study in the book of John, John chapter 6. I want to talk to you today on this subject: a bite, a bag, and a basket. A bite, a bag, and a basket. I believe that He is a God of miracles. I believe that regardless of what you're going through and facing, and how overwhelming it may seem, even impossible, that today as you're thinking, there's no way out, there's no way around, there's no way through, that God, His Spirit, His love, is going to touch your heart, and you are going to believe that it's not too late for your situation to turn around. I believe that God works miracles, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, is the God of miracles. John chapter 6, beginning to read at verse number 5, says, "When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward Him, He said to Philip, 'Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?' He asked this only to test Him. He asked this only to test Him. I want you to notice that today. He asked this only to test Him. For He already had in mind what He was going to do. Philip answered Him like we all do. We immediately resort and revert to thinking about the cost and money. Philip answered Him, "It would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Our subject today is a bite, a bag, and a basket. Philip immediately goes to, how much will it cost if we were to give everyone a bite? Another of his disciples, Andrew. I'm thankful for Andrew. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up and he said, "Here." I like that word. If you would notice that one word, everyone say here. Not there. Not next week. Not a month from now. Not a year later. Pastor Mike, if you knew what I was going through, maybe someday, sometime, somewhere, it's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about here, right now. Could God touch you today? Andrew said, "Here. There's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how?" Is there anyone that would be honest enough to admit with me that that's what we get caught up in sometimes? Here, but how? Here, but how? That's what's happening with Andrew. Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place. They sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Theologians, historians would believe that there was potentially 30,000 people, counting their spouses and children. Verse 12, they all had enough to eat, which is amazing. If we were to look at 30,000 people, I'm a dad of 4, and I don't know if you have children, but sometimes my wife and I can look at, who's offering kids' meals and kids' nights, and if we're going to let them all get drinks, and just a family of 6, the bill can add up so quick. My mind getting around the concept of feeding 30,000 people. The Bible says they eat, they're full, and there are 12 baskets. 12 baskets. 12 baskets. We're talking about a bite, a bag, and a basket. I think in life, you and I will probably live in one of those 3 areas. We will probably live with a mindset of a bite, where everything is going to become so controlled and dictated that we live with a bite concept, like if I work 6+ months, we can afford a bite. Everyone gets a bite. Our marriage may not be perfect, but we'll hang on. We'll survive. Maybe my son and daughter, they're not going to really turn the corner, but we're going to hang on. Maybe Pastor Micah will never get intimacy and passion back into our marriage, but we can each just sleep in a different bedroom and pay the bills together. And you would live with a mindset of a bite. I think other people, they could settle with a bag. We don't know a lot in this story about the young boy that had the bag, except there's 5 loaves and 2 fish. We're never told that they had to beg the boy for the bag. No one had to twist his arm. No one had to say, "Give us that bag." We're just told that there was a boy with a bag. But I know a lot of people, we live in a very selfish world. Could be on your job, in your factory, your business, where people compete and compare and clamor for the next position and the next title, and they'll backstab, and all kinds of craziness can go on in the world when people want to protect their bag. You're not going to have my bag. This is my stuff. This is my position, my parking spot. Sometimes when we just live for our own selves, people will live with a mindset of a bag. This is what I've accomplished. This is my degree. This is my title, my position. This is my bag. And then there's this third level where the bag is put into the hands of God, and the bag becomes a basket. I love the lyrics to the song, "I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence." You see, the story changes when the bag gets into the hands of God. The bag becomes a basket. I would ask someone today to put either your bite-sized mentality, your "I'm going to survive and hang on and hold on," others to put your bag, your "I'm going to fix it on my own, I will figure it out." I'm asking you today, whatever it is, the bite or the bag, to turn it over to Jesus and just see what God could do if you would give Him your situation, if you would give Him your life, if you would give Him your marriage, your business, your mind, your heart. It is amazing what can happen when the bag gets turned over to God. When I look at this story, the first thing that I see in this particular story is this, that God has their miracle in mind. I want you to think about that. God has their miracle in mind. They see what's happening right now. Jesus sees what's going to happen next. While they are gathering the committee, while they are meeting the board, while they're having a family meeting, while they are trying to figure out the X's and O's, how are we going to do this? We're going to have to work for 6 months. God already sees what's next. He already has the miracle in mind. What if while you're losing sleep today, stressing today, worrying right now, looking at the numbers and the facts and the statistics and ready to throw in the towel right now, what if God already sees the other side? What if God already sees you coming out with joy and happiness and favor and blessing? What if while you are counting the cost for the bite, God is already standing there saying, "I see the basket"? You see, I really believe today He's not just the author of your faith. I believe He's the finisher of our faith. That when the 5,000 men are coming to hear Him, He is not just the first of the story. There really is two sides. He sees the last. He sees the full belly. He sees the 12 baskets. God already has the miracle in mind. When we look at this particular passage, I would submit to you that here is where we come to the test. This is the test for whether or not it's your marriage or your business, your ministry. Maybe for some of you, your future, you're trying to figure it out. Here's the test. That the miracle, chances are, the miracle is not what you have in mind. So before God has a chance to get His hands on the bag, you're going to start telling Him how it can't be done. Do you know their past? Do you know where they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Do you know my husband? Do you know what I've gone through with my son or daughter? And before God can bless this, you start talking Jesus Christ out of the miracle. How sad would it be today if God wanted you to have a basket and you're telling Him you're willing to live with a bite? Can you imagine right now if God is saying, no, I see the basket. I see you already married. I see the right spouse. No, I see your son or daughter turning around. No, they're going to have an amazing future. They're going to be okay. No, you're going to go back to school. It's going to work out. The money's going to come. The loan's going to happen. You're stressed right now. You're not sleeping, but it's going to work out. I already see the basket. And you're telling Him, no, it can't be done. This is how much it costs. This is who we don't know. This is why it can't happen. Because a lot of times, the miracle is not what you have in mind. Did He ask them if they're going to have to work overtime for 6 months? But immediately, they begin to tell Jesus why it can't be done. When you look at how our lives sometimes can so quickly resort to tabulating the cost and not to trusting the Christ. They're telling Him, we're going to have to work for 6 months. I was in the airport the other day. It was early. We had got up, I believe around 3:45 a.m. We had to return the rental car, and we were waiting in the security line at the airport. And at that particular time of day, it's just sort of quiet for the most part. People's waiting in line. They're taking their shoes off, emptying stuff out of their pockets. You're just not in the mood for a lot of conversation. I had got separated from the group I was with, and so I was standing alone. But I hear this really deep voice behind me. And He responds to someone, and the words just jumped out to me, partly because He had such a deep voice. But He says, doubt it. And then I hear the little guy beside him. I haven't turned around yet. The little guy beside him says something else. They're talking business or something. He says something else, and the big guy says, doubt it. And I hear that 4 or 5 times. Doubt it. So finally I turn around to try to match the voice with the person. And when I turn around, there's this great big guy. And he's wearing a t-shirt, and the t-shirt has bucket list on it. And the bucket list is some ice and beer, and that's his bucket list. And some of you said amen. And I normally would never take a picture, and I cropped the face out of it, but I normally wouldn't take a picture. But I took my phone and took a picture because I got so caught up in the moment that it didn't matter what the little guy was saying. All the big guy would respond, doubt it. And in the middle of a security line, I felt like the Holy Spirit just began to speak to my heart. That you have to be careful about the people that come into your life, that their default response is always going to be, doubt it. I want to see my marriage turn around, doubt it. I want to go back and get my degree, doubt it. I want my son or daughter to be raised with ethics and principle and favor. And I want to see them walk out the plan of God. Doubt it. Everyone sows wild oats. And everyone gets off track. Everyone. Doubt it. I want to build a church in the middle of a field that changes an entire state and goes around the world. Doubt it. I think we've got about 60 internship applications already turned in this year. Last year we had nearly 40. This year we're up to almost 60. Doubt it. Some of you have God purpose and God plans on the inside of you. And it could be outside voices, or some of you have voices in your own head. Doubt it. What is telling you today to doubt it? You'll never get your health turned around. You'll never get your body in shape. You'll never get intimacy and passion back. You'll never let unforgiveness go. You'll never see that. Doubt it. There's always someone or something trying to tell you, live with a bite, settle for a bag. But I've come to challenge someone's faith today. God didn't call us to a bite and a bag. He called somebody to believe in the basket. The Bible says, if you look at a mountain and you believe and you don't doubt, that's not my word, that's the Bible's word. Don't doubt in your heart. Don't doubt in your heart. Doubt it. Hear my heart today. Come on, praying mom. Block out all of the people saying it's not going to happen for your children. Yes, it is. Come on, dad. All the statistics and numbers that want to rule out you being a good husband and a good dad and your family serving the Lord, they want to tell you to doubt it. Block that out. It's going to happen. It will happen. You can see the God of the miracle working basket in your life. Here's what happens in the story as we wrap up our story today. The Bible says they immediately resort to money. Now I want to ask you today not to allow monies to get in the way of your miracle. Now our message today is about feeding 30,000 people. I can't even imagine how much that would cost. But I know they immediately, if you would, get out their calculator on their iPhone and they start telling Jesus, wow, this is going to be really expensive. It's going to cost a lot. I read just in the last week, I had saw where in divorces, they had done a legal study, and in divorces, 65% of them had extreme confrontation, arguments, issues with money. Money is something that can mess with people in your marriage, evidently. It can mess with people on their jobs. They start comparing and competing of this person's paid this much and I didn't get the promotion, and how come I'm stuck here? And it even filters into church. People's like, don't talk about money. Don't say anything about money. We're going to quit if you talk about money. and it's not a new problem. It's not just new to marriage and church. It's been around forever. It happens here. They immediately go to, how much would we have to pay for everyone to get a bite? Is there anyone today that when you eat, you would be happy with a bite? Come on, you got to tell the truth today. You're not just going to eat a bite. You want more than a bite. But the option number one is to settle for a bite. I have 4 kids, as I mentioned. I don't want to give my kids a church that only believes in a bite. I don't want to give interns a God of the bite. That sounds in the story like you could almost have church without God. Well, we'll work 6 months and pay for this. We don't even need the hands of Jesus on the bag if we're going to do it all ourselves. I don't want to give my 4 kids a bite mentality, nor do I want my kids to be raised where we hoard and hold on to the bag. I don't want to raise my 4 kids to think it's my bag, and I'm not giving it up. I really want, this is not Pastor Micah, this is just Dad Micah right now. I want my kids one day to talk about being part of a church where we saw miracles. We saw God do things that you would have never believed. God provided and opened doors and did amazing things. I want my kids to experience that kind of a God. They begin to tabulate monies. Money begins to get in the way of the miracle. I heard the joke about, it's the middle of the night and a burglar breaks into a pastor's home. And he tells the pastor when he breaks in, 1 move and you're dead. I'm looking for money. And the pastor responded and said, let me grab a flashlight and I'll help you look. Money. Everyone say money. I love the joke about, and I've shared it before, but I love the joke about the church that was in a building campaign and they needed thousands of dollars. The pastor had exhausted his efforts on asking people to be part of it. So finally he gets up one Sunday and he tells, it was a traditional church, but he tells the crowd, said, I need $10,000 today. If someone will give $10,000, I'll let you pick out the next 3 hymns. A little old lady stood up in the back and said, I'll give $10,000 and I'll take him and him and him. It almost seems that Andrew has no idea what he's doing. Here is a bag, 30,000 people, and here's a bag. Here's the amazing thing about this story that I would love for someone to believe today. The basket is in the bag. Here, we're not trading the basket. Yeah, but I was divorced, I was bankrupt, I messed up last week. If you knew my past, we're not trading the bag for the basket. The basket is in the bag. What comes out of this bag is going to end up as baskets. There are interns right now. Oh, missionary, business owner, world changer. There are some of you, we have freedom nights on Tuesday nights, and people trying to get off addictions and habits, and if you're not careful, you'll judge them because you're only going to see a bag, but we pull it out. Leader, business, vision, freedom, liberty. If you're not careful, you'll only see the loaves and the fish, but the basket is in the bag.